Okay. Let's talk about the Lindsay Lohan movie. Hello, my name is Hannah Ruth Civita, aka The Woman in Wool, and on this channel we crochet and we talk history. We're knitting today though, because I'm learning how to Aran knit. Learning being the key word. Why do we do this? Because true crime makeup is oversaturated. But the real reason we do this is because in 2016 I moved from New York to Dublin, and ever since then I have made it everyone else's problem. That is correct. But in reality, when I came here, I started learning all about the history and the nuances and the culture of this beautiful country, and I considered it my job to regurgitate it back to you, fair internet. And this channel is a love letter to this beautiful country. And I hope to offer just a different kind of perspective on things here. That being said, now as so many of you have seen, our Lord and Savior Lindsay Lohan is back on the big screen. And personally, I'm very, very happy about this. As a millennial, I grew up with Lindsay Lohan movies, quite literally. From Parent Trap to Mean Girls, I was there, baby. The so-called feud with Hillary Duff, the Aaron Carter debate, rest in peace. You had to be there. Also, I wanted to be her and have her hair and all that fun stuff. You get it. The early 2000s was a minefield for young celebrities. I think we can all kind of agree. It's a minefield for young women in general, specifically. And Lindsay Lohan, like many other young celebrities who are thrust into the spotlight so fucking young, did incredibly well and then ended up having a lot of issues. As we all know, she ended up struggling with addiction, quite a few mental health issues, and the law, leading Lindsay down a path where I assume it is very difficult to get out of. Now, I'm not going to dwell too much on Lindsay Lohan's life or the life that she led in the past. I'm going to read this. I just want to say how happy I am for her that she is in what appears to be a way better place, and that she is getting back into doing what she loves and doing what she does well, which is acting. And being a redhead. She's so good as a redhead. I've always wanted to be a redhead. I don't know if it shines through in every aspect of my personality or not. Definitely does. I want to be redhead. I've never been a redhead. I was a blonde, I was a brunette, I had a pixie cut, I shaved half my head, never a redhead. So no matter what I think of this movie, just know that it is not a reflection on Lindsay Lohan or any of the actors in this movie. And I am thrilled that Lindsay is back in the big screen, jumping in with both feet. I know she had a Christmas movie that did really well. I'm just happy that she's getting back into things that she loves. So no matter what this movie is, I haven't seen it yet. We're gonna take that trip together. But just know that whatever this movie is, it's not a reflection on Lindsay or her life or any of the actors in this film. So I'm not gonna lie, as someone who was born and raised stateside and then moved to Ireland as an adult, my perspective on movies like these have changed. And what do I mean movies like these? Because as Irish Wish came out, I think the reaction that I've seen online is a lot of Irish creators and Irish folks having this kind of recoiled, almost traumatic response, you know what I mean? Like a response that this has happened before and here it comes again, and they're almost like wincing, you know, like when somebody goes to like do one of these, they're almost kind of like wincing back away from it and they're watching it, and like there's a lot of pretty negative reactions to this film. And so what do I mean films like these, and why is this reaction happening? There's a very specific subsect of movie, and the two big ones that come to mind are P.S. I Love You and Leap Year. And these are rom-com movies. They're kind of light, they're romantic comedies, they're a bit silly, so they're not to be taken too seriously, and they're about an American woman falling in love with an Irish man and being whisked away to Ireland. And now it's different in each one of these movies. For example, P.S. I Love You, they meet in Ireland, they live in America, he dies, and she goes on this kind of reflection journey. In Leap Year, there is a concept that we're going to talk about in a second where she, the main character, goes to propose to her boyfriend and then goes to Ireland, ends up meeting a great guy, and her boyfriend's an asshole. You know how it goes. So kind of like a similar premise in a way, going to Ireland, falling in love with an Irish guy. Bada bing, bada boom. These are kind of the two big ones. There are quite a few movies that don't fall under the rom-com title but also get honorable mentions, like Far and Away, Law of Attraction, and I'm sure that there are more that you can tell me down in the comments, but the two that I'm going to be kind of focusing on for the kind of prequel to Irish Wish is what the Lindsay Lohan movie's called. Sorry, I don't even think I said the title of the movie that Lindsay Lohan's in. It's called Irish Wish. And I'll insert some audio here. A friend of mine, Sinead, she sent me some voice notes, and she said the movie Irish Wish, she was watching it. She goes, God, that's such a hard word for Irish people to say. She's like, Irish Wish. An Irish wish. Oh my God, that's really hard to say for an Irish person. It's like Irish wristwatch. It's really hard. An Irish wish. That's really actually quite hard to say. So the first thing we have to do is talk about P.S. I Love You and Leap Year. These two are kind of the predecessor to the Irish Wish movie, and in Ireland, people are rightly so a little bit worried that the Irish Wish movie is going to be yet another one of these. And while I was absolutely obsessed with these movies when I was younger, guilty, and when they came out, I kind of fell in love with this idea of a romantic Irishman like sweeping me off my feet, whisking me away to the rugged and incredible countryside of Ireland, filled with sexy accents.
Hey, unrelated. I did an AI image generator for romantic Irishman as to avoid any more pictures of Gerard fucking Butler, and this is the image that I got. like the soulless eyes of this woman and the fake Irish words and what appears to be a guy smushing his nose and just, I don't know, the whole thing wigs me out. AI needs to be destroyed. We need to get rid of that immediately.
Like, now that I've been here 7 years, don't worry, the accents are still sexy. They are still sexy, but it's different, you know? Like, it's a different kind of sexy. Like, I went to an all-boys school and haven't talked to a girl kind of sexy. Like, I'll teach him how to saute spinach. He teaches me what hurling is kind of sexy. But it's hardly the I'll play you a song in a pub and make prolonged eye contact with you kind of sexy. The eye contact thing's tricky for everybody, not just Irish people. And so the breakdown of P.S. I Love You is about a woman who is married to an Irishman in America, and he dies. And he leaves her all these little letters, very romantic, very heartfelt, very sincere, and all of them end with P.S. I love you. And like, she ends up going on this like big remembering journey of remembering how she met her husband and all this fun stuff and going through Ireland. The biggest critique with that movie is Gerard Butler's accent. He's from Scotland, right? Gerard Butler's from Scotland. Did I make that up? We have the technology. We can figure that out. Yeah, he's from Scotland. And like, although Scottish accents and Irish accents are similar, I have to say the Irish accent is incredibly difficult to do well. You know? And Gerard Butler has later come out and apologized for his butchering of the Irish accent. When I say Irish accent, I think there's this kind of Hollywoodification of an Irish accent, very easy to understand, classically trained Irish accent. Somebody who's taken diction lessons, you know? But there's this like Hollywoodification of like a very neutral, classically trained Irish accent that isn't particularly regional. Whereas Irish accents are incredibly regional. The Dublin accent is different from the Killarney or the Kerry accent, clearly. The Cork accent, the Belfast accent, or the Northern accent is different entirely. Belfast to Derry, the accents are different. North Dublin and South Dublin, the accents are different. Like, it's just a very different, there's accents all over the place. For such a tiny island, there's so many. And I think the issue was they didn't pick a regional accent for Gerard to study. They were just like, be Irish, you're Scottish, it's close enough. And Gerard was like, okay. You know, and so the biggest kind of criticism of this movie was how bad his accent was. Like, they couldn't, like, I get he's a big box office actor, and potentially at the time there weren't too many big Irish box office actors like we have now. We have Barry Keoghan. I think that's how he pronounces his name, even though I have heard that that is not the correct way to pronounce his name. I think that's how he pronounces it, so that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Or Cillian Murphy, or any of those lads over there. Saoirse Ronan wasn't around, obviously, she's very young. So it's just, potentially there were no big box office Irish actors, right? And that's not true, because Colin Farrell would have been of it. I don't know, you know what I mean? So like, maybe I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here, but like, did they have to make him Irish? They could have made him Scottish, right? They could have been, I don't know. It's just very strange. Like, I don't know. The other big criticism of this movie was that geographically it was all over the map. So there's one part where the main woman, I think it was Hilary Swank, who goes into a pub. It's the P.S. I Love You pub. I've been in it. It's in Dublin town. And then she comes out and she's about halfway across town. And like, I get why Hollywood does this. You know, like, it can't be perfect. You know, like, if you're filming something in Dublin and you want like some classic Dublin shots, maybe the outside of that particular bar wasn't as pretty as the outside of a different bar. So like, switching it around, it's Hollywood, you know, it's not real. So like, I get, at least they were still in Dublin, you know? Like, there was an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they're like supposed to be out in the middle of the countryside and they're in Howth, and like, they're like supposed to be in like Kerry or something, or like Tipperary. They're supposed to be like out in the middle of nowhere, and they're just like in Howth. And you're like, that's just a 30-minute train ride away from the city center. So like, I get it. Like, I get that filming locations have to kind of be conceptual, and even though you might know where something is, it doesn't matter. The same thing happens in New York City, right? When people film in New York City, they don't film geographically correctly. You know, like, if they come out of a building and they want it to be in like Soho or like somewhere a bit more like cool, I don't know, if they want it to look a certain way, they'll film it in that location, but then they'll say it somewhere else, you know? So it's the same thing in any city. So they're not gonna have the geography absolutely perfect. So like, when people make fun of P.S. I Love You for having the wrong location, like, she comes out of one bar, which is on Georgia Street, and then she automatically is like in Rathmines, you're like, it's okay. Like, I'm willing to forget. That's the Hollywoodification of geography. Like, I get it. But the accent was like unforgivable, and just like, were there no Irish actors, you know? Which is a big worry in the Irish Wish movie, because from what I've seen, there are not too many Irish actors. We are gonna look that up before we watch it though, just to make sure. We're gonna take this journey together. And Leap Year this is another thing that I've seen in the trailer for the Lindsay Lohan movie. In Leap Year, first of all, I love Amy Adams. If you come for Amy Adams, I will come for you. But Amy Adams is, you know, with her boyfriend for a good long time, and she's like waiting for him to propose, and then he doesn't, right? And she's like, oh, and so somebody said, like, so her boyfriend is going to a business trip in Ireland, in Dublin. And so she is like hemming and hawing about what to do. And somebody says, you know, in Ireland on the leap year, a woman can propose to a man. This is the early 2000s. There wasn't a lot of like thought, right? They were like, of course a woman can't propose to a man except on leap years. And, that was a thing. So Amy Adams decides to go to Ireland to propose to her boyfriend. Now, this whole like, oh, in Ireland you can propose to a man on the 29th, that's kind of a thing everywhere. It's not necessarily a specific Irish thing from what I know. If it is, I've not heard of it in the 7 years that I've been here. Like, I've been here 7 years. There was at least 2 leap years, I believe. Yeah, there was 2 leap years since I've been here. And I've never heard of anybody be like, in the Irish tradition, all the women are gathering to propose. Like, that's not happened. So like, it's kind of a fake thing that they made up about Ireland. And this kind of perpetuates an image of Ireland that isn't true, which is what I'm a little bit worried about with the Lindsay Lohan movie. Because in the Lindsay Lohan movie, I saw a trailer where she sits on a wishing bench and makes a wish. And this is what the Irish wish is about. And that isn't real, like, so I was talking to Sinead about it, and the thing was, when they make up magical, mystical things about Ireland, right? When Hollywood makes up mystical, magical things about Ireland, it perpetuates this kind of mythical stereotype that Ireland is like this old country caught in the past and immune to the passage of time, and magic still runs rife, and like, stop. Like, there's plenty of magic that you could talk about, actual Irish fairy tales and magic that you could talk about without making something up, So that leap year thing about like women proposing to men on the 29th, like, I get it was important to the story, but you didn't have to make it an Irish thing. You could have just said, on the 29th you can propose to a man, you should go to Ireland and propose to him, and that would have been the end of that. But they didn't. They said it's an Irish thing, and now people think Ireland's this like crazy backwater place that mystical, magical, and then the whole like Irish wish bench thing, it perpetuates this weird kind of dumb country bumpkin stereotype of Ireland that like believes in magic, like some city girl who's too smart to believe it all takes a chance and does make a wish on an Irish bench and blah blah blah. So like, that's a little bit what I'm worried about too. And I was talking about it with Sinead, and like there's plenty of magic in Ireland you can pull from, but the other thing is, magic and fairies and wishes and all this stuff, it's not a positive thing here in Ireland. People don't go looking for fairies. That's the opposite of what happens. The fae and the wee folk and the fairies and the good neighbors and the Tuatha Dé Danann, they're all kind of the same. So if I switch between those, just know that that's what I mean. They're bad. Like, I don't know how else to say it. People avoid fairy areas. Like, if you see a circle of mushrooms, people avoid it. There was a fairy fort in the middle of Ireland. They diverted a motorway around the fairy fort as to not disrupt the fairy fort because of worry of the ramifications. So a little bit of backstory. The Fae in Ireland were the original inhabitants of the island, and the Milesians, or the humans, eventually defeated them and sent them underground, right? They forced them underground. They're like, you don't have to leave Ireland, but you can't live on top of the ground. You have to live underneath it. And so the Fae were forced under the ground. As a result, the Fae became very weak and very mean and very angry and resentful towards humans, and now their entire purpose in life is to destroy humans and to hurt them. That's fairies in Ireland. So there are fairies in Ireland whose whole purpose is to like kill babies, replace babies. There are fairies whose sole purpose is to whisk daughters away and impregnate them with half fairy babies. There are fairies that are specifically designed to drown people or to harm people or to crush people to death. Sometimes fairies will whisk you away from your home for years and years and years and years and then send you back. You think it's been 5 minutes and now your wife is 87 and she remarried and had other kids. And like, it's a form of torture. They want to hurt humans. So the idea that Hollywood has kind of swept in and replaced the actual narrative of fairies with like a fake, sparkly, charming, whimsical, backwater country believing in wish. Like, it's not true. And there's so much you could do with the actual Irish fairies in Hollywood that would be so much cooler. You could go really dark with it, actually. Hollywood, call me about some dark fairy script ideas. And like, so the storylines of the movie, while slightly off and like not quite true, it was really the kind of portrayal of Ireland and Irish people that Irish people had a problem with. The main point from previous American written movies about Ireland was the execution. These movies, yes, they portrayed Ireland as beautiful and cinematic and like rolling hills and countryside and blah, 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 but like they did not depict the Irish culture accurately. And in fact, it was in some sense offensive to Irish people, understandably. Sharon's giving me agita. I can't with the fucking yarnosi. Fuck it. And the other criticism about leap year was, again, the Irish accents. Like, it's a very hard accent to do. It's tricky. You have to train in it. Or just hire an Irish person. Did you not think there would be any Irish actors who would willingly do a movie with Amy Adams or Hilary Swank or Lindsay Lohan? Like, these are leading actresses in Hollywood. You'll be able to get Irish actors, no problem. Like, there's scores of Irish actors sitting around in agencies and working jobs that would have happily dropped everything to be in these movies. And I think that's where it sucks. And like, even like, I don't know, man. Like, the Irish accent is so tricky. Even I wouldn't take a role as like a native Irish person. You know what I mean? Like, I've been here 7 years and yes, my accent has changed. If somebody's like, oh, we need somebody with an Irish accent, I'd be like, oh, cool. You mean all of these people right here? Like, I'm not an actor anyway. I don't know why I said I wouldn't take a role. They wouldn't even offer it to me. And like, I think the problem is like when this kind of misrepresentation happens, like these are multi-million-dollar box office hits. People will see them and kind of take it at face value. And this happens for like other countries, yes, but like there's something about Ireland, man. People love European tribalism and like Celticism and the idea that, you know, ancient humanity could be somewhere in Europe, and portraying this as like a sparkly fairy get lost in the woods kind of story is hard. You can see where people are getting a little bit worried. And like, especially with the Irish wish thing where they're making a wish on a bench. Never seen anything like that. The closest thing I've seen is in Blarney Castle. Like Blarney Castle, I've been to Blarney a couple times, you know, I've been to Blarney a couple times and I've, you know, done the stone and all that fun stuff. People will tell you they piss on the stone. It's closed at night. If it's open, there's somebody guarding it and there's tons of people. Then nobody pisses on the stone. Don't listen to people say it's pissed on. You can't even get to the stone if the grounds are closed. Anyway, in Blarney Castle, there's all these grounds. So like, Blarney Castle isn't just the castle or the stone. It is a giant grounds of like an old noble. On the grounds, there's like these huge gardens. They're absolutely amazing. Even if you go to Blarney, like I know a lot of Irish people don't like to go to Blarney Castle, or maybe they did when they were kids, but there are these like grounds that you can walk around that are absolutely stunning. There are plants I've never seen before in my entire life, even in Ireland. Or it's just, it looks like someplace out of a storybook. It's really wild. But in the Blarney grounds, there's a staircase and they call it a witch's staircase. And I'm not sure if this is real. I'm not sure if this is like based on any reality or like if it's just a kitschy thing that they made up for tourists. But if you go up the staircase and down the staircase, or down the staircase and up the staircase while closing your eyes, like with your eyes closed, you get a wish. And that's the closest thing I've ever seen. Like I said, I don't even know if this is based on actual Irish folklore, or if this is just like a kitschy thing that they've done for the tourists there. But it's a stone staircase. You go, there's a railing and you go up, you go down, and then you make a wish. Or you go down, and you go up, and you make a wish. And that's the closest thing I've seen to what the Irish Wish movie is portraying. Lindsay Lohan will sit on a bench, she makes a wish, and then she gets her wish. I don't know if that's a real thing. So I'm gonna watch the movie and I'm gonna be researching as I go along. I'll film some parts about it, but because of copyright issues, I can't put in clips of the movie, so I'm just gonna be probably breaking it down afterwards. So I'm going into this with an open mind. You'll see some of my reactions, but like I said, I'm just gonna break it down after. I haven't watched it yet. Maybe this will be like a good before and after thing, hopefully. So let's get into it. I haven't tried to be paying too much. So I have seen Irish creators' reactions to the movie. I have seen the trailer for the movie, and I gotta say, I'm a little worried as well. With the mysticism, with the fake Celtic mythology, with the fake Irish tradition that's already being put forward, and the fact that I don't know if they have any Irish actors in them. Again, we are in the golden age of Irish actors. Cillian Murphy, Barry Keoghan, Saoirse Ronan, tons of people are coming out of the woodwork from Ireland who are doing really great stuff, and all you have to do is text and be like, do you know anybody? So let's find out where these actors are from. So IMDb, Irish Wish. The leading actor, oh, Lindsay, you look so beautiful. Okay, so the main actress. So we got Lindsay Lohan, we got Ed Spilliers. Hope I said that right. Born April 7th, 1988 in Chichester, England. Okay, so he was born in England. Looks like he's English. Alexander Vlahos. I'm so sorry, Alexander. All right, so Alexander in Swansea, South Wales. So he's Welsh. His first language is Welsh. That's pretty interesting. You know, not too many people whose first language is Welsh, so that's pretty cool. But again, not Irish. So the two main love interests, not Irish. Aisha Curry. So this is Steph Curry's wife. She is obviously from America. Oh no, she's from Canada. Okay, I'm not sure if she's playing an Irish person or not. So she's American, or sorry, Canadian. Elizabeth Tan, British actress. All right, British. Jacinta Mulcahy. She sounds Irish, so Jacinta is Jacinta Mulcahy. Okay, it doesn't tell me where she was born. Let's see. Mulcahy, I think it is. Jacinta Mulcahy. A British film and stage actress. With a name like Jacinta Mulcahy, though, I feel like she might be Irish. I've heard that she's playing an English person, though, which is very strange in a movie called Irish Wish that you would have the one Irish person playing an English person. Where was Jacinta Mulcahy born? She was born in London. Okay, so she might be of Irish descent then, but she is English. Jane Seymour. I'm just going through all the top actors and vetting them, essentially. Is English. Oh no. Oh God, Matty McCabe. Doesn't say where he's born. Where was Matty McCabe born? Irish actor. Okay, Matty McCabe is from Ireland. We got one, and that he's playing Corey Kennedy. So I'm gonna look out for Corey Kennedy. So far, out of the top 8 people on this movie in the IMDb page, one of them is Irish, and he's not any of the leading people from what I can see. Let's keep going. Dawn Bradfield. Oh, Dawn Bradfield in Ireland. Okay, so that's 2. Dawn Bradfield's born in Ireland. She is known for King Arthur. Okay, cool. So we've got Dawn Bradfield, we've got Matty McCabe. I have a feeling Maurice Byrne might be Irish as well. Born in Dublin. Okay, cool. So we do have a few Irish people, but none of the leads are Irish. Like the 2 main love interests who are supposedly from Ireland are both not from Ireland. We're gonna have to test there. I'm really worried, you guys, that we're gonna be listening to some really shit Irish accents. Okay, Aidan Jordan, born in Ireland. Okay, so it looks like a lot of the smaller characters are born in Ireland, at least, and are Irish. I'm getting some weird vibes because the top 7 people listed on the cast are not Irish. Jacinta, I have a sneaking suspicion she might be Irish. Call it an intuition thing. Without further ado, I've kept an open mind. I've kind of preempted myself with the trailer, the cast list. I am worried. I am very worried. I'll film some of my reactions. Like I said, I probably won't film the whole reaction to the movie. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Wish me luck. Wish me luck. I'm gonna need my knitting for this one, and maybe a cup of tea.
Made myself a smoothie bowl. I'm really stressed out about it.
Do you think the movie's gonna be good? I'm asking now on camera.
Serious?
Do you think the Lindsay Lohan Irish Wish movie will be good? Or fine? Like, it'll be fine? Or do you think it's gonna be P.S. I Love You? Leap year again.
I think it's gonna be like leap year. It's gonna be some American coming over to what they assume is Ireland's, visiting the cottages, and then falling in love with the supposed Irish guy in a tweed.
In a flat cap? in an array of jumpers.
The guy's gonna be from either like Scotland, England, or possibly Australia.
Yeah, in P.S. I Love You, the lead actor was from Australia.
Maybe they'll go at least Northern Irish, if it's in some way.
If it's in some way in Northern Ireland,
yeah.
I doubt it. It's never in Northern Ireland, is it?
Donegal, Sligo, or like Kerry.
I assume they'll put in the Cliffs of Moher, but will not say that they're in Galway or Clare. We're gonna check some geography, but like, I assume there'll be a Cliffs of Moher scene, but that they'll say they're like in Donegal or something.
Okay, so weirdly enough, I was super on point with this. There was a Cliffs of Moher scene, but they were supposed to be in what I think is Bundoran. I'll get into it in a minute. Don't worry, there'll be justification. But I was so on the nose, it's almost offensive how on the nose and exact that I got this. Cliffs of Moher, probably Donegal. Whatever. All right, I was so right. I was so right. It was like everything we thought. Yes. Anyway. Enjoy.
An abundance of cliffs for sure.
Well, it'll be along the Wild Atlantic Way anyway.
And I'll turn on and off the camera periodically and just walk you through some stuff because I don't think I can film myself watching the whole thing, and I don't think you guys want to see that either. So wish me luck. All right, so we are 12 seconds into this movie, and I'm gonna play this accent for you. Don't know if you can hear it.
Wish to want something that cannot or probably will not happen. But what if it does?
I cannot tell if that's an Irish person or not. I don't think it is. It sounds like the Lucky Charms commercial from when I was growing up. They're after me, Lucky Charm. You know that one. Okay, we're pushing through. Okay, where are you? Okay, immediately I know what's happening. We're set up, we start off in New York City, in like Manhattan, in the most glam, big city vibes, tons of people, there's paparazzi, there's music, and I just know that this is the setup to then hit us with the opposite in Ireland. You know what I mean? So this is kind of the same thing that happened in Leap Year, where like we set up, she's this big city executive, urban, she has a job, but she's gonna fuck all that away for a small town guy. It's in every Hallmark Christmas movie, you know? So like this is following the same kind of thing. It's a movie, you know, this is what it is. But when you portray a whole country in a certain way, like setting up, I'll show you, and then the main guy gets out of a car like this, a car with one of those doors, you know, like we're getting like city, civilization, power, career, forgetting what life's really all about. You know what I mean? One of those we're giving out of touch city, urban Manhattanite, and then we're gonna hit them with the rural, stuck in time, charming, quaint little Irish village. You know what I mean? Like it's a fish out of water thing. And obviously, yes, if somebody from New York, like Manhattan, who spends all their time in Manhattan, who's very much a Manhattanite, then goes to like Dingle or something, like, yes, obviously it's gonna be different and maybe even a culture shock, but like, I don't know. I know New York City has 5 million people. Ireland has just over 5 million people. You know what I mean? So like, yes. Anyway, let's keep going. But I just know they're gonna hit us with the charming, quaint little village that teaches you the true meaning of love and life and what it's all about. Okay. His accent isn't actually bad. I know that he's not from Ireland, but it is exactly what you'd expect. It's the Hollywood, like, oh, Matty, there's something I want to talk to you about. I'm from the countryside of Ireland, and I'm desperate for you, Matty. I want to be talking to you. Like, that's exactly what he sounds like without trying to, like, film him. It's fake. It's fake. Like I said, if they had gone for like a regional accent, if they had like specifically picked, I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, I'm not a diction expert. I'm not a dialect expert, but just having been here for a little while, I feel like I can I'm going to wait for him to say more things. He's only like kind of whispered hushed things to her and like kind of announced the crowd. So like it's kind of, we're going to move forward. But yeah, so far his accent is like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. So it's not the worst Irish accent I've seen in Hollywood. So I think we're okay. Okay, so Lindsay Lohan's mom is from Canada. The actress is from Canada, I believe, or from the States.
Wrong. This actress is also from fucking England. They're all from goddamn England.
But she has this like unplaceable accent. Maybe she's from Ireland and has been in the States for years and years. I'm not sure where in Canada she's from. I'm not entirely sure where the accents in this movie are going. I've decided that Paul's accent is like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. It's it's a little hard to listen to. He's going for like poetic. I don't know what he's going for. It's not the worst accent I've heard. It's not. But whatever. We're still in Manhattan. Let's see how this movie unfolds. Okay, first inaccuracy I've seen in an Irish movie. We've got an Irish lad, supposedly an Irish lad, who meets a girl, right? He's met this woman, it's not Lindsay Lohan, and he proposes in like 3 months or 4 months. Inaccurate, from what I've seen. Or no Irish man wants to propose to me. Either way. But yeah, from what I've seen, a lot of Irish people do wait quite a long time to propose, and this guy was just like, do it. Like, he proposed in like 4 months. So first, inaccuracy. I'm not going to hold this one against Hollywood. I'm just saying, you want to tell a real Irish story, have them live together for 9 years, have 3 kids, and then ask people, why would we get married? That's the real Irish kind of timeline. And people are like, when do you get married? And they're like, why would I get married? That's a dumb thing you said. Anyway, that's a joke. It's a joke. Also, they've just flown in to Knock Airport, which is in Mayo. In Mayo? No, yeah. So they're in Mayo. They're between Roscommon, Sligo, and Mayo. And I think I know why they're in Knock Airport. I have a feeling it's because they want to hit us real hard with the opposing scenery from Manhattan. So they've flown us into Mayo, even though I don't think there's any direct flights from JFK to Mayo or to Knock Airport. It said that they laid over in London, maybe. Like, I looked it up just quickly, and it looks like there's a layover in London. It's not important, but like, there is no direct flights from New York to Knock Airport. And I think they're just trying to hit us with the opposing, like, NYC, and then just like some small ass country airport. They'd probably have flown into Dublin, to be honest. All right, well, let's find out. We just met the lead romantic interest for Lindsay Lohan, and he's English. He's like not even playing Irish. So I actually am happier about that than I would be if he was faking an Irish accent. Like, there are English people in Ireland, obviously. And like, I find it more fathomable that he flew in from England to Knock Airport than Lindsay flew in from New York to Knock Airport. So he's English. It's an interesting concept for an Irish romance movie. I thought maybe the romantic lead would be Irish, but I think maybe that people have learned their lesson and they're like, let's not get a fake Irish accent in there. We'll just get an English person. It's fine. Maybe they're just using the backdrop of Ireland as like for this romantic thing, and the lead character, like the head guy is Irish. He's supposed to be, but this guy's English. So I don't know what the deal. Let's find out. There's a lot of let's find outs here. So I just want to ask, I'm just asking, what self-respecting Irish guy? That's the love interest. This is the...
Maddie, there you are. You finally managed to get it all out.
What? Come on, dude. An Irish guy, even a big, famous, rich guy who he's supposed to be big and rich and famous, going home and wearing that, he'd be persecuted in the streets. No, I'm kidding. That's just a joke. But like really stretching the reality a little bit with the old what Irish people would wear going home. I'm kidding, but I don't know any Irish guy that would wear that, especially not one from a place where you'd fly into Knock Airport. So like from the countryside of Ireland, not wearing a pork pie hat to his family home. Not if he's got any siblings anyway. Again, jokes. Okay, so Lindsay just hit us with the line like, oh, she has to like get her baggage. She'll take an Uber there. She'll take an Uber to this guy's house, whatever the main character's house. And then she's like, oh, there's no Ubers in the area. Great. And it's just like a picture of her outside of like the stark, empty Knock Airport. And so, like I said, they've just hit us from giant city, tiny ass little town. Oh my God. Tell me what the fuck this bus is. What the hell is this bus? I'll put an actual picture of it. It's a 1950, there's curtains on the bus. I would love to take that bus. It's like a tour bus. That's not, yeah. Like I said, we're getting stuck in time, charming, quaint, behind on the times, Ireland, stuck in the 50s and 60s, backwater country. This is what we're getting. This is so stressful. Probably what would have happened, she would have gotten a bus errand, or there would have been a bus from Knock Airport into the surrounding towns. Or more likely, if she needed a cab, they speak English in Ireland. You can just go into the airport and be like, hey, I need a cab. Can you call one for me? There are cab services in most places. I went to Blarney Castle and there's like a couple of surrounding towns. They just had like 3 people who ran cab services. And I went into a cafe. I was like, I need a taxi. Can you get one for me? They just like gave me 3 phone numbers of like dudes in the area with cars that drive people around for money. They like weren't even real taxis. So like even in the smallest of like Irish towns, if you're in an airport, they have taxi services. You know what I mean? Like if you're in an airport, just ask somebody like, look, is there a taxi? Like she wouldn't have had to go on this 1950s. It's just, like I said, it's portraying an image. It's a beautiful image. It's a charming image. Maybe sometimes it could be, but like this bus, it wouldn't, that's not it, my guy. She just said, she got on a bus at an airport and said, can you take me to this address? And the guy was like, no bother. Where's this bus? I want to go. I want to be on this bus. It takes me exactly where I need to go. And I get it. It's for the storyline. But like, it's not a rinky-dink little town of a country, you guys. Like, you can't ask a bus driver to take you to an address. He'll be like, yeah, I stopped 3 blocks away from there. It shouldn't be too far of a walk for you. That would, it's like a normal place. Be normal. Okay, now I know I talked about like geography and not needing to be 100% accurate on geography because this is Hollywood and they just want to show you some beautiful things. So like they're doing all, like she's on the bus and they show all of these beautiful like scenic views of Ireland that they drive by, and they drive by the coast. And I'm like, Knock Airport's nowhere near the coast. And then they go by a restaurant called Cronin's Shebean, and it's about an hour away from Knock Airport. An hour away from Knock Airport. And she just like gets on the bus and is like, can you go to this address? And the driver was like, no problem. An hour away in the country roads of Ireland on a huge bus? No, that's not good. I mean, you know, like I said, this is Hollywood. Okay, that's an hour away on the coast of Ireland, out away from the airport. So it's just like, I get it, it's for beauty's sake, but it's just one of these things. Now I'm nitpicking and I'm like, come on guys, you wouldn't get a bus. Like you would, but yeah, it's a bus to what seems to be a place called Rossmally. That's not right. Oh, Westport. It's outside Westport. Sorry, now I'm just scrolling around Google Maps here. It looks like she got a bus from Knock Airport to Westport. Okay, so not as crazy as I would have thought. Maybe that was part of the route that he goes all the way to Westport. That would be the final destination, though. I feel like at the bus, it would just be Knock to Westport. Maybe, but it's about an hour away, so I'm not entirely sure. I'm not sure if a real bus service does. And I know, it's just Hollywood. It's just for the scenic vibes. Yeah, you get it. Okay, so the bus driver just dropped her off at her exact location. We're going to go right past that. We've already talked about that. And it looks like the main character is very, very wealthy. He's got this huge old landlord mansion. So I can see why maybe he was encouraged to wear the pork pie hat growing up. Maybe he just thinks he's better than anybody else. I don't know. That's a joke. It's a joke. Jeez, calm down. Okay, so they get to this big landlord house. The brother comes out. The brother, who is Scottish? His accent sounds a little Scottish, but whatever.
Hey friends, the brother is played by an Irish guy. I'm just shit at identifying accents. I'm glad we could clear that up.
And then his mom is full on English. The mom is just full on English, living in this huge mansion in Ireland. So like, it's giving colonizer, but you know, it's not inaccurate. If a rich English person, they buy a castle in Ireland, whatever. Like, but I do like that they're not faking accents. I actually really like that the English people have kept their English accent, because like, there's English people all over Ireland. They're very close islands together. You know, it's not like one stays in the other, whatever. Like, you know, there's Irish people in England, there's English people in Ireland, which I'm quite liking the fact that they've kept their own accents, which I think is a little bit easier on the ears, which is lovely. Except for Paul, the main character, who they felt the need to fake an accent with. I don't know, just feel like there's Irish actors out there. So apparently these two Irish brothers, one is Scottish, one is English, but they're both Irish now for some reason. And Paul is dressed like an old American man that's gone down to Cuba for a couple days. I'm not entirely sure how to describe it. I'll put a picture here if I can find one. And the best thing the funniest thing I can think of is like, his brother hasn't called him like a wank or anything like that, you know? Like, his brother, they're born and raised in Ireland, and his brother hasn't called him a funny name yet for wearing a pork pie hat and a summer vacation outfit for an 83-year-old man in Colombia or Cuba. So like, I don't... That's what I'm thinking. I was like, if this was a real Irish romance, your brother would be making fun of you. That's how it goes. Even my brother makes fun of me, and we're American. That's just how it goes. Anyway. Also, this reporter just let us know, like, the love interest, he's a photographer. He's just let us know that he's covering the sheep shearing festival, which, sure, it's like the quaintest little backwater thing you can do, I suppose. They just really hit us with the opposition hard on this movie. They really did. It's like, from Manhattan, high life, author, best-selling author, ka-chee, Paul, look this way, give us a quote, to like, I'm covering the sheep shearing festival in a bohunk town on the ocean. Like, first of all, that's a dream, so shut the fuck up. Second of all, you really hit us with the opposition hard, but this is what the kind of the issue is. Like, they go for like this opposition of like Manhattan, big city, and then they slam us with the like backwater of Ireland, am I right? And you're like, all right, man, sure. You know, it's just that image of Ireland that's a little antique and or antiquated and a little dreamy, I suppose. Dreamy and fake. Okay, so they get to like a picnic spot, and it looks like this guy's written a book about a fairy in Ireland, and they do clarify, so Lindsay does clarify, one of the girls is like, oh, is this where your like mystical, magical fairy lives from your book? And Paul's like, yeah, no, it is. And Lindsay goes, but she's not mystical, magical, she's evil, and she lures men to their deaths in the lake. And I'm like, that sounds more accurate, actually. So it looks like maybe they did Google fairies in Ireland before doing it, before filming, let's see. But it looks like they did Google fairies in Ireland before doing this scene, at least, because Lindsay does correct him. It's like, no, this woman is evil, she's an evil fairy. So I'm like, all right, maybe they thought about it. Okay, so we've just gotten to the part where Lindsay Lohan goes off on a walk by herself. She's miserable, all of her friends are paired up, and I think that this is the part where she's gonna find the bench, and the woman is gonna talk to her. Now, I have heard that the woman who talks to her and gives her this wish is Saint Bridget. So maybe, and the bus that she went on was called like Bridget's Buses or whatever. So I think St. Bridget has a lot to do with this story. So it looks like they did some research on St. Bridget. But St. Bridget doesn't like grant wishes or anything. So I think maybe they took some creative liberties, but let's find out. Just sitting on a bench. They have these beautiful like sceneries of Ireland, obviously. It's absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so there's a woman that's just appeared.
Wishing chair.
Yeah, the wishing chair. Okay, so there's a woman who's just shown up. Her name... I think she is St. Bridget. Oh, let's see who plays... Okay, Dawn Bradfield plays St. Bridget in this movie. Let's see where she's from. She's from Ireland. Okay, so at least they got St. Bridget to be from Ireland, which is quite nice, but I don't know why Bridget is here in the first place. And then the wishing chair shows up, which is like, we'll have to do some research into that if that's a thing or not. Is that a thing? Let's find out. Okay, so the wishing chair is a pub in Donegal, in Bundoran. Fairy Bridges and Wishing Chair, a website you can learn the history of Bundoran's... Okay, Wishing Chair. Okay. Oh, okay. Let's see. So Discover Ireland says, the Wishing Chair, Fairy Bridges and Wishing Chair are two enchanting features situated at the sea in Bundoran, County Donegal. Okay, so this is in Bundoran in Donegal. There's a wishing chair and a fairy bridge. It just looks like they put it somewhere else for the movie. So maybe this has more merit to it than we think. Now, I'm not sure. Okay, so it looks like it's just in Bundoran, that there's a wishing chair in Bundoran, in Donegal. So maybe this movie's taking place in Donegal or whatever, or they've just kind of mishmashed a lot of Irish things together all at once, because they flew into Knock Airport, they were in Westport, and then they ended up in Donegal, maybe, in Bundoran. I don't think it's Bundoran, but you know, it's just one of those, like, they mishmashed all together. Like I said, geography is kind of, they do it in every movie. They're not gonna get it specifically geographically perfect every single time, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised at a lot of the things I was initially worried about. So like the fake Irish accents, so far I've only encountered one. The fake wishing chair, turns out there's one in Bundoran, and so it's not as fake as potentially I thought. So far it's like a solid 6 out of 10 for like how it depicts Ireland, because it does still depict Ireland in this kind of like charming backwater stuck in time kind of light, but you know, we were worried about that in the first place. But so far, a lot of the stuff that, and like the fairy thing, Lindsay corrected, the fairies are actually evil, so better than I'm thinking, better than I thought. Also, they've made Lindsay Lohan like adorkable. Like, she trips over everything, she's got glasses, she falls around, she's like a Disney princess, like, obviously. Just loving Lindsay Lohan and everything she does. Okay, unrelated, just very funny. This is like clearly a very rich family, very upper class, very upper echelon of society, pish posh, all that fun stuff. And they're like, oh, do you want to go pick apples with us? To like this one brother that the main character has, and he goes, oh no, I can't, I have rugby practice. And I just thought that was very funny because rugby practice. Okay, so there's a lot of references to St. Bridget. There was the Bridget bus, there's Bridget granting the wishes, and then there's a bookstore clerk in the movie, and he gave somebody a Bridget cross as like a souvenir. Just an interesting thing that they have going on. It's weird that they did so much research into St. Bridget and then inaccurately depicted her as somebody who grants wishes. It just seems like they did a lot and nothing at all. I do have to say though, I very much like that they've depicted the Irish family in question as like a rich, high society Irish family. Like, the mom's English, but the dad's Irish. And like, I do like that they've depicted this family in this way, instead of the overdone Irish, bohunky, thatched roof cottage, Catholic family thing that Hollywood seems to do all the time, especially in Leap Year and P.S. I Love You. Like, I am very happy that they've depicted the Irish family, the main Irish family, in like this high society. Like, they're annoying in their high society, and they're exhausting, and they're like up their own ass, like obviously because they're rich. But like, the fact that they've done that instead of go the other way, which could so easily have been done, is great. Like, it's refreshing to see that. It's refreshing to see the Irish people in the movie portrayed as like high society and wealthy, which is not what you get a lot in Hollywood, which is quite nice. Okay, so I do see something that happened. They were driving through, so from Knock to like Westport to Bundoran, and now they're in Howth, which is quite obviously Howth, which is like, I get it. Like I said, the whole geography thing is gonna be par for the course in a movie like this, but they're in Howth now. And yeah, it's fine. It is what it is. You should have just seen my face snap. I turned the camera off. They were walking through Howth, and then I was like, because they're now immediately at the cliffs of Moher. Immediately at the cliffs of Moher. Like, I get it. I think it's just because I know where they are. It's like, what the fuck? They were walking around facing the Irish Sea, and you spin around 10 seconds later, and they are on the Atlantic Ocean. It's on the other side of the country, and it's just, like, it's a little shocking. Like, I know this is not intended for Irish audiences. This is for American audiences on St. Patrick's Day and all this fun stuff. But because I know where they are, it's just so hard not to get weird about it. Like, it's beautiful. Like, they're, like, walking through these, like, patches of purple heather, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And then it, like, they emerge from like a little dip, and they come up, and they are on the edge of the cliff off of the cliffs of Moher. I just got whiplash, sorry. So like, I know it's Hollywood, location is location, like they're just trying to get pretty shots. Like, okay. It's just because I know where they are. If I didn't know where they were, I'd just be like, Patty, like whatever. I don't know. All right. He says it's also authentic as it gets, and they're on the cliffs of Moher. The cliffs of Moher. They're in the cliffs of Moher. And they were like in Bundoran, I suppose. Or if they were staying in Westport, they could get to the cliffs of Moher pretty easily, maybe. I don't know. They're just using Ireland as like one big mishmash of things. And, Ireland is a bit more nuanced than that. Like, they're mushing together a couple different spots in a couple different areas. And it's regional, it is regional. Like, it's a regional place. It's not like India in that way. Like, every spot is just a little bit different. And in India, even more so, it's a bit more extreme than Ireland, like county and area and stuff like that. But like, it's kind of mishmashing Ireland into one giant culture and one giant place, like Howth and the cliffs of Moher, and then Bundoran, and then Westport, and then Knock Airport. It's kind of all smushing it together in one spot. And like, I get what they're doing for the movie, but it is gonna rub Irish audiences the wrong way. Okay, they've entered into like a little country pub where everybody's having like a sing-song and that kind of thing. It's reminding me of like a lower deck of Titanic a little bit. And I don't think they can say the word Guinness, so they've said stout a couple times. And everybody's drinking like a nondescript light brown beer in like a stein. And there's a lot of young people about, which is the first inaccuracy. And it's piss and rain. It's the whole like one bedroom trope thing. But yeah, so they've said stout a couple times. Nobody's drinking Guinness though, so next inaccuracy. But like, I feel like in like a small country pub in the middle of nowhere, it wouldn't be this crowded, but that's nitpicky. I'm being nitpicky. Now I'm just in a bad mood. Okay, now we've reached obligatory Irish dance scene in a pub. It's quite lively. Yeah, it's giving Titanic. Everyone's in a flat cap and suspenders. Don't get me wrong, I love a good flat cap and suspender combo, but it's very much giving bottom floor of Titanic, which obviously Hollywood, Ireland. I love it. There's people faking some instruments though. That's very funny. Yeah, it's cute. It's very cute. It's kitschy, but it's cute. That's okay. Okay, it's getting darker and darker. I apologize about that, but I just Googled, does St. Bridget grant wishes? Because I need to know. And that's a big question. It says 10 things Lindsay Lohan's Netflix rom-com Irish Wish gets hilariously wrong about Ireland. Number 7, St. Bridget does not grant wishes. St. Bridget is the patroness saint of Ireland, and she does not grant wishes. She's patroness saint of a lot of things. She's patron saint of a lot of things, but wishing is not one of them. So we're going to talk about this at the end. I'm going to wrap up this movie. I think I know how it's going to end, obviously, but we'll get some more light in and we'll wrap it up that way. Okay, it's a new day. I have a new outfit. It's the 70s. Look at my bell bottoms. They're actual bell bottoms. I got them from Amazon. Here we go. Look at my makeup. All right, cool. Now that we've talked about it, it's a new day. I have to talk about this movie. I have successfully watched Irish Wish as successfully as I could anyway, and I had to walk away. I did film an ending to this immediately after watching the movie, and I realized I needed another day to gather my thoughts, because a day or two later I was like, you know what, I have to talk about this. So here are my kind of ending thoughts. First and foremost, let's summarize this movie. Lindsay Lohan is an editor for a big time author. And for some reason, this author is like a major A-list celebrity in the States who's like doing all these tours, and his book's a fucking rock star, you know, it's like the best book ever. And this author is an Irish guy named Paul Kennedy, and he's like super hot and super rich and super successful, and you know, he's kind of like the it boy. He's everybody's dream guy, and Lindsay Lohan is obviously super in love with him, right? And she's this adorkable, falls all over herself kind of girl. She wears glasses. So, you know, that's the kind of girl we're dealing with. Adorkable, very sweet, very smart, not very smooth, not very out there, you know? And she is the editor for Paul Kennedy, and she literally wrote the book for him, essentially, is how it goes. So, like, all of his other books were like, meh, and this one was like amazing, right? And it's called Two Irish Hearts. And so she and him are at like this big major company event and like this big, like, whatever to do pop star level press conference or something like that. So we're hitting the audience hard with the old big bang New York City, Manhattan, A-list celebrity, lights, camera, flashing, glitz, glamour, because you know that they're gonna hit them hard with the quaint little bohunky Irish countryside, fish out of water, Lindsay Lohan in heels in the countryside kind of thing. You know the deal with these kind of movies. They hit you with the Manhattan only to smack you into a field in Tipperary somewhere. I know where we're going. So Lindsay is, you know, talking to her mom on the phone. She's like, I really want to tell Paul how I feel, but I don't know how to do it. And she's like, just do it. So she sees Paul, and before she can tell Paul how she feels, he runs into her best friend. And he runs into this girl named Emma, who is from England, right? And so they hit it off, and they end up dating, and they end up getting engaged, and they all go to Ireland for the wedding because his family home's in Ireland. I'll dive into more anyway after the synopsis. And so they end up in Ireland. Lindsay is devastated. She's like all over. She's like, I wish I had told Paul how I felt. I wish I was marrying Paul Kennedy. And she sits on this bench in the middle of a field somewhere, which I think might be real. So she sits in this field, and she's sitting on a bench. And she goes, I wish I was marrying Paul Kennedy. And guess who shows up? None other than St. Bridget. St. Bridget shows up at the bench. She's like, did you just make a wish? And Lindsay's like, no, not really. And she's like, well, do it properly. Sit down and make your wish. And Lindsay's like, fine. So she sits down, she closes her eyes, she makes wishes. I wish I was marrying Paul Kennedy. And St. Bridget grants the wish. Like I said, we're going to jump into this in just a second. Let me finish the synopsis first, because this is a headache. I already have a headache. And so St. Bridget grants the wish. Lindsay's the one marrying Paul. It's in an alternate timeline. And of course, things mess up. They're not great. She doesn't actually like Paul like that. He doesn't like her like it's you know, it's bad. It's obviously. And so she gets to know this one guy that she met on the bus in the original timeline. His name is James. He's from England. And obviously they end up falling in love. She unwishes the wish. We go back to the original timeline, and she refuses to write any more books for Paul. She's like, I'm writing my own book, Paul, and I'm not going to be your ideas girl anymore, because I wrote that fucking book and I should be the best-selling author and whatever. And her friend marries Paul, and you know, it's great. And then she gets to meet James, the English guy, and like it goes on from there. Now, let's talk about it, because, okay. So, like, it's a rom-com. You know, the storyline is whatever, the acting is whatever. You know, it's a rom-com. I'm not taking it too seriously. I didn't expect any, like, Oscar performances or, like, crazy training or huge budgets. It's silly, it's fun, it's romantic. In terms of rom-coms, for what it is, I'd give it a 6 or 7 out of 10 in terms of, like, whatever, you know? But like in terms on how it reflects Ireland and the Irish cringe factor, let's call it the Irish like cringeometer, let's start with the storyline. A woman who's American falls in love with an Irish guy, comes to Ireland, falls in love with an English guy. Fine. I would have preferred, obviously, if both of the love interests were Irish because it's an Irish movie and this is a great opportunity to showcase Irish talent. And you know, Irish talent is very, very big this year with Barry Keoghan. I think that's how he pronounces his last name. I know it's technically supposed to be Keoghan or Kean, but I think Barry pronounces it Keoghan. So Barry Keoghan with Cillian Murphy, Saoirse Ronan, Aisling Bea. Like, we have so much Irish talent, and not only the A-listers, like we have so many actors here in Ireland. And I'll get into this in a second, but like the fact that, you know, there was okay, so Paul Kennedy is an Irish guy who Lindsay's in love with at first, but he's not played by an Irish guy. He's played by a Welsh guy, whose name I'll put here. And you can tell that he's not Irish. The Irish accent is really fucking hard. And yet again, time and time again, again and again and again and again and again, actors don't get the Irish accent. They fuck it up every single time. It's bad. It's a bad accent. It's not the worst one, obviously, in the whole world. It didn't make me go, ooh, you know what I mean? But I was like, kind of like this the whole time. Like he was raised around Irish people a lot, but like obviously wasn't Irish. Like he's Welsh, which is a very different accent from the Irish accent. And so like, I don't know. I wrote it down. The Irish accent is very tricky and you need an Irish person to do it. You just do. I wouldn't even put someone in there with a very good fake one, honestly, because like it's different. It's come to the point with these movies when they hire a non-Irish person and they have them fake an accent. Irish people in Ireland have like a trauma response almost. Like an Irish movie comes out, like Irish Wish, and they go, oh no, not again. Because there's so many bad, fake Irish accents there. And I think the issue is, one second. And so it's like a fight or flight response. It's an immediate like defensive position when like this kind of movie comes out, like an Irish movie or a movie focused on like an Irish aspect where Irish people just go, oh no, like they're about to get punched in the face. You know, they're like, oh God, stop, make it stop. Leonardo DiCaprio and Cameron Diaz in Gangs of New York, Julia Roberts and Michael Collins, Gerard Butler in P.S. I Love You, Matthew Good in Leap Year, Matt Damon in The Great Wall, Brad Pitt in The Devil's Own. The list goes on and fucking on and on and on. Like, just hire an Irish person. Just hire an Irish person. How fucking hard is it to find an Irish actor? It can't be that hard. They got it for Bridesmaids, you know what I mean? And that wasn't even supposed to be an Irish person, it was just any old person, and they happened to find an Irish actor to be in Bridesmaids. Just fucking do that. I am literally begging you to put Irish people in your movies, Hollywood. Begging you. Absolutely begging you. To use their actual accents. If you need an Irish accent, just hire an Irish person. Fuck me. I know 3 Irish guys off the top of my head that I could put in a movie that are actors, that are trained actors from from their universities. Fucking Christ. Like in terms of the act. So like, okay. So Paul Kennedy, the main character, he's Irish and his whole family's Irish. He has a brother, he has a dad, and he has a mom. He himself is a Welsh person playing an Irish person. His brother, I assume, is Scottish.
Nope.
The mom was English and didn't even bother to fake an Irish accent, just was English. Like, she had an English accent the whole time. So honestly, I was okay with that. I was like, there are a lot of people in Ireland. It's a very multicultural country. And a lot of people that live here are obviously from England. And that's, you know, fine. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people from England that live over here. And so that made sense to me. It was a very rich, wealthy family. So I was like, okay, maybe they've traveled a lot, maybe they met abroad, like whatever it is, like the backstory in their head. It was just so disappointing because like his mom was English, his dad was Irish. I honestly didn't have a problem with that. I was like, okay, whatever, like maybe he's half English, half Irish, whatever it is. But they like never addressed it or said like, oh yeah, we met in London, or like I'm from England, or whatever it is. Like they never addressed it. They were just like, yes, we're an Irish family. Here we are with English accents and whatever. And I was like, all right, you know, and to be honest, I'm happy that she didn't fake an accent for this movie. And her name is Jacinta. So maybe she's of Irish descent and she's from England or some sort, because she's an English actress, but her name is Jacinta McCahey, I think it was. And I am happy that the other love interest, his name is James. He's from England. He was also not faking an Irish accent. That was his English accent. And I am happy about that. I'm happy that they were just like, yeah, he's English, whatever. Like, you know, like we're not gonna make him fake it. As few faked Irish accents as possible would be best. However, if you're gonna make a movie called Irish wish and put it in Ireland and romanticize Ireland, why wouldn't you just hire Irish actors? Again, god damn. Another positive in this movie, though, was I very much liked the fact that the Irish family being portrayed in the movie was super duper wealthy, right? Like, we don't get that a lot. We get a lot of like bohunky, thatched roof cottage, 9 siblings, Catholic lifestyle representation of Ireland in Hollywood. So like, they could have very easily hit us with the like, oh, Lindsay Lohan, she's in Manhattan, she's a big city girl, and then like, shoop, go down to like a literal like tiny little house with like a cow outside. Oh, we don't do that here now, miss, blah, blah, blah. Like, we could have very easily done that, but instead they made this family super wealthy, and that was like a conflict in its own, which was kind of cool. Like, they made the mom kind of up her own ass a little bit and kind of full of themselves, and they were a little exhausting, right? Like how like you would portray a fake rich person in a movie, right? Like a little exhausting, a little high maintenance, a little demanding. I am happy that they didn't spin it around to be like poor little Catholic family in the middle of nowhere, like in a tiny little house cottage thing. They put them in like a huge castle-y mansion kind of place. I'll talk about the locations in a second. That was a positive, that showing that Ireland does have old money families, and like, yes, that's a conflict of its own. Maybe they're Anglo-Irish or they come from old money in a dirty kind of seedy way, or like oppressory colonizer kind of way, but there are rich people here in Ireland and there is money here in Ireland. Like, that was very nice to see a very modern, wealthy family portrayed as an Irish family. You know, that was refreshing from Hollywood. Here's the main issue though of the movie, is that Saint Bridget is portrayed as like a wish granter. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, so for those who don't know, Saint Bridget is the patroness saint of Ireland, and she is a person that is based off of an old Celtic goddess named Bridget. Some people call her Bridget, some people call her Bridget. Either way is correct, but she is in no way a mischievous little imp that grants unintentionally mishapped wishes. Like, she is a motherly figure that helps people. She takes people in, she feeds people, she provides miracles. There's a story of her cloak sweeping across Ireland and creating spring after a long winter. Like, she is the essence of warmth and welcoming and help and support. Like, I'd say if they wanted to include St. Bridget in this movie, they should have included her at the end with a resolution. So like, let's say Lindsay Lohan made a wish and a fairy granted it, or a fae granted it. One of the she granted her this wish, which would make more sense. I'll talk about that in a second. And then at the end, when she realizes her life is falling apart and she's super sad and she doesn't want this, then Saint Bridget comes in and says, do you need help? And she'd be like, yes. And Saint Bridget would like selflessly help her. That's something I could see Saint Bridget do it. Not, oh God, like the way Saint Bridget was portrayed was like a little trickster, mischievous gnome type thing. She would like dance around and like watch Lindsay Lohan and like tease her and be like in the background and like run off and make her think she was crazy. And like, that isn't it. And it's really odd that they did that. I don't know. Like, if they wanted that kind of character, they should have used some sort of fairy, obviously. And I know that once we get into fairies, there leaves a lot of room for error. And I do think that they were trying to avoid fairies altogether. Like, I think they knew that fairies were a very complex option for a storyline for them, like the writers of this movie. Like, I think they knew that fairies altogether were bad, right? Because there's a line in the movie, like they're talking about the book that Paul has written or Lindsay has written, and they say, oh, like, is this where the fairy lives? And Paul's like, yes, she's a beautiful fairy. And Lindsay's like, actually, she's an evil bitch and she like drowns people. And Paul is like, yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what fairies do. And so they knew enough, the writers of this movie knew enough to do that, but not. One second, I'm running out of battery, give me a minute. So like, I think that the people who wrote this movie were desperately trying to avoid fairies because they knew that that was a complicated subject that had to do with like evil and stuff. So I think that they avoided it at all costs and just dipped to St. Bridget. And honestly, at the risk of sounding very American and very kitschy, I think the St. Bridget character should have been a leprechaun. Just hear me out, wait a minute, just wait a second. Like, I know leprechauns aren't real. Like, a lot of Irish people have told me like, leprechauns aren't real, you know? And I was like, yeah, I get it. They're about as real as every other fairy though, because they are a type of fairy. They are as real in folklore as a selkie or a banshee or a fucking whatever, you know, like a changeling. they are a part of the fairy realm, Irish fairy realm. You know what I mean? They are a character in the Irish fairy realm, and they are real in that sense. They're not real, but you know what I mean? They're about as real as any other fairy or any other she, because leprechauns are a type of fairy, just like a selkie is, just like a changeling is, just like any other fairy. And like, I know that leprechauns are overdone and very embellished and accentuated by Americans appropriating Irish culture. When it comes to things like Irish folklore, the number one thing everybody thinks of is a leprechaun, and it's come to the point where there's been this kind of reactionary response of Irish people to say like, stop using fucking leprechauns. It's not representative of Irish culture. It's not representative of Irish folklore in any way. It's just gotten very popular based on pop media. And we have Walt Disney to thank for that. That's another video. And I think that the writers of this movie knew that and were desperately avoiding leprechauns at all costs, obviously, because of that. They're like, we can't do a leprechaun. We just fucking can't. And so when they were looking, my thought is that when they were looking up, you know, plot devices and like, how do we grant Lindsay this wish with this mayhem and then grant it back, like ungrant it? And like when they came across the answer being leprechauns, they were like, fuck no, we're not doing that, right? Like, we're not going to be the leprechaun movie at the risk of being like offensive, you know? But, and the fact that they use St. Bridget, like, I don't know, not many Americans that I know of or American like Hollywood places would really know about St. Bridget. She's not exactly St. Patrick, you know, she's not as famous. She's the patroness saint. So like, I think when they were trying to go for like authenticity and actual Irish culture, they chose St. Bridget because she's a very important part of Irish culture that isn't as reported on as like St. Patrick or a leprechaun, you know? So I think that's why they did it. But in Irish folklore, there are leprechauns, and the nature of the leprechaun is mischievous, but not necessarily harmful, which is what this St. Bridget character was supposed to be. So like, they'll grant you a wish, but you'll never really get exactly what you want, you know? Like, you'll get what you ask for, but not what you want. That's what this character was. They got, like, Lindsay got what she asked for, but not what she wanted from this wish, you know? And that's what a leprechaun would have done. So for example, I went to the Leprechaun Museum in Dublin, and despite the hokey name, it is just a folklore museum, and it talks specifically a lot about leprechauns because of the pop media coverage of it. And they give you an actual honest education a little bit on the actual leprechaun of Ireland, right? And so there's this story about a leprechaun who, like, a guy finds a leprechaun. If you find a leprechaun, they have to take you to where they have their gold, right? And so like, this leprechaun drags the guy who found him like all the way into the heart of the woods and says, I've buried it under this tree. The guy's like, oh, you didn't tell me you buried it under a tree. Now I have to go get my like shovel. And the leprechaun's like, yeah, well, you have to free me now because I showed you where my gold is. And the guy's like, okay, now I have to free you. I'm never gonna remember where this tree is. So he takes off his bright red sock and he ties it onto the branch of this tree and says, don't move your gold. And the leprechaun's like, I won't move my gold. And he says, don't move the sock. And the leprechaun says, I won't move the sock. And so the guy's like, okay, you're free to go. Go. He runs back home. He gets his shovel. He comes back, and the whole woods, every single tree has a sock on it. The leprechaun gave him what he asked for, but not what he wanted. So like, he didn't move the sock. He didn't move his gold. He was free to go. He showed him where his gold was, but he made it impossible for the guy to find it. You know, so it's those kinds of like mischievous, you're no worse off than you were before, but you're upset and it's annoying and they've kind of ruined your day but not your life, you know what I mean? Like they've made you upset and they're mischievous, but they're not harmful or violent in any way. So I really think a leprechaun would have fit into this movie better. And I know that people are going to tear me apart because they're sick of hearing about leprechauns from Americans, but honestly, I do think that that would have made more sense. But I think the writers in this movie knew that if they put a leprechaun in that movie, that they would be fucking stoned in the streets by the Irish public for like, oh great, another fucking leprechaun movie. That's all we already do is leprechauns and rainbows and St. Patrick. But honestly, I think it would have made more sense. They have Lindsay visit this field, which has a Viking or a bridge that the Viking used and a wishing bench. And I looked it up because the closest thing that I had seen to a wishing bench was the wishing staircase in Blarney Castle. But then I looked up like wishing bench Ireland. I was trying to find it, and there is a wishing bench in Bundoran over in Donegal. Relatively speaking, it's near enough to where I think this movie takes place. They reference the bridge, they reference the wishing bench, and in Bundoran there is a bridge and a wishing bench, right? You sit down, you close your eyes, you make a wish. They did research there. They found the one wishing bench in Ireland, which I think is hilarious. And they did enough research where they knew that fairies were evil based on that one line Lindsay Lohan says, and they know enough that St. Bridget exists and is the patroness saint of Ireland, but they didn't do enough research to know anything else, apparently. Like, they didn't do enough research to make it make sense. Okay, we know what St. Bridget is, we know what a wishing bench is, we know where it is, and we're a little bit accurate on areas. St. Bridget grants somebody a wish. Like, no, sorry, not at all. Like, the research on this one was Definitely just like Google based. I can feel it. They didn't consult any Irish experts, Irish folklore experts, Irish history expert at all. Like they didn't, I don't even think they called an Irish person who was like, well, this makes sense. Like even the one Irish actor on set was probably like, what the fuck is this? And they were like, shut up, Dave, or whatever his name. Like, I don't know. The next thing we'll talk about is obviously the geography. Now, like I said, with geography in movies, I can kind of suspend my disbelief a little bit. Like in P.S. I Love You, she's in one bar, she opens the door, she's coming out of a totally different bar across town. Like that's only gonna bother people who know the area very well. And like same thing happens in Manhattan. Like they want one scene from like Brooklyn and then 5 seconds later they're walking down Wall Street, you know? So it's like, I get it. Like they want a certain aesthetic, they want a certain vibe, they want a certain look to this movie. They're gonna have to mess around with geography. I totally get it. That being said, my mouth fell open, dropped like a stone with the locations of this movie. They fly into Knock Airport where she gets on a bus and then she's in Westport on this bus, but then they drive from Westport to apparently Bundoran. So part of me was like, so Lindsay gets off at Knock Airport and she gets a bus to Westport. First of all, this bus is from the 1950s and is absolutely gorgeous and is called like Bridget buses, but is obviously not representative of Irish transport in any way, shape, or form. So like she gets on the bus, she's like, can you go here? And she like shows an address and he's like, yeah, I can take you there. So we're like, whatever. But then he drops her off at Kennedy House, the exact location where she's going, which I later kind of figured out to be Bundoran based on the fact that there's this wishing bench, so they have to be somewhere near Bundoran. Ostensibly, the bus went from Knock to Westport to Bundoran, which like, okay, maybe, you know? And then they dropped her off at her exact location. False. I would take that bus every single time. But like, you know, sometimes with small towns they can do that. So like if in a very, very small town, if you're the last one on the bus and you're like confused and you're a tourist, maybe a bus driver would be nice enough to drop you off right at your hostel or whatever you're going to, if it's on the way, if it's not too far. You know, like I can ostensibly see that, but he like had a bus full of people and he went to this, like her friend's house. And I was like, all right, 3 hours away by my calculations, which like absolutely not. And then when my mouth dropped open was specifically, they're going to the cliffs of Moher, right? Which from Bundoran to the cliffs of Moher, hours, by the way, hours. Maybe, and it took a whole day, like, you know, it was a whole day like adventure. So maybe, but in this scene, Lindsay and James are walking around in Howth, like clearly Howth. And Hollywood uses Howth a lot because you can get there very easily and very quickly from Dublin, but it's still a gorgeous little town that kind of looks like it could be in the countryside, you know? It's about 25 minutes away from Dublin by train. It's very simple, it's very cheap to get there. You can get a bunch of stuff and then you can kind of disappear into nature fairly quickly. So like it's used a lot in Hollywood or TV shows. Like in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there was a scene where they were in Howth and they were like, oh, we're out in the wild Irish countryside. We're miles away from Dublin. And they're like in County Dublin still, but like only Dubliners know that that's Howth. So I was like, whatever, it's probably not supposed to be Howth. But like they were in Howth and they come over this hillside and they're in the cliffs of Moher. And just because I know where they are, I was like my jaw like fucking, oh my God, like what are you doing? So like obviously I know that like if you don't know the geography of Ireland or whatever, it's fine. This movie was not for Irish people, clearly. But like the fact that I knew where they were, I was like, what the fuck? You have to ignore the geography of this movie because it makes absolutely no sense. They're just all over the West Coast and they're in Howth and they're back on the cliffs of Moher and then they drive back up to Bundoran somehow, whatever. Also the guy drives around in an open top car, which like, come on man, you're tempting the gods. And it did rain once, so they put the roof up, checks out, but like, goddamn. And like we've seen it 100 times, we'll see it 100 more. I eat it up every time. New York City girl goes to rural Ireland and falls in love because I'm like, that's me. I'm from New York and I live in Ireland, even though I lived in the suburbs of New York and now I live in the city in Dublin and I just want a culture to come save me. Please, if you're a culture, just come and rescue me from Dublin, please. I'm kidding, don't come. You're not invited. So like all of the things that we thought were going to be a problem with this movie when the trailer came out were absolutely a problem with this movie. We were worried about the accents. The accents were shite and all over the place. We were worried about the locations. Same. We were worried about the weird conceptualized portrayal of Ireland as some bohunky fairy tale. That happened as well. It was everything that we nightmared about, you know? So was it as bad as it could have been? No. Were there some positive things about this movie? Yeah, like most people kept their accents, even though they were in Irish. The Irish family was portrayed as wealthy instead of like a bohunky farmer family, which was nice. And also I love Lindsay Lohan. So like, but it was just this portrayal of Ireland again, you know, as like this kind of charming little place stuck in the past. And that's not true, you know? It's just not true. There are charming places stuck stuck in the past. In Ireland, obviously. Same thing with every single country in the whole world. There are charming little backwater towns that are stuck in the past. Same with America. I can name 3 or 4 towns in the States right now that are beautiful and kind of all American, but kind of stuck in their ways from the 60s and the 70s or whatever. But like, do we need another movie like that? Do we? Anyway, I found a list online actually from screenrant.com, and it was the, 10 things Lindsay Lohan's Netflix rom-com Irish Wish gets hilariously wrong about Ireland. And I went through it, and I agree with some, and I have pointers on others. So let's see. And I'll include the list down here. So number 10, it's not so calm at the Cliffs of Moher. Yeah, so like they're walking around in Howth and they're taking pictures and blah, blah, blah. Cliffs of Moher are absolutely packed all the time. And it's very, very windy. It's very blustery. It's on the Atlantic Ocean. It's very dramatic drop. So like that I get. Like I said, they have to film. They can't be like, exactly where they are all the time because there's this kind of mythos that they have to build, and I get that. So same thing that happens in Manhattan, same thing that happens in Miami, like same thing that happens with all filming, like really big filming locations. If you're at California, like they're gonna drive up like a coastline, even if where they're going is like in the middle of a city, a coastline, so like I get it. Number 9, they're drinking Guinness from the wrong glasses. Yes, they are. But in their defense, it's very hard to get copyrights for stuff, especially if you don't 100% need it or it's not very, very important to the story. So like I was talking to Kieran Kavanagh, owner of the Gravediggers Pub, and he was telling me about how one time he met Anthony Bourdain when Anthony Bourdain was traveling through Ireland. And even Anthony Bourdain just giving facts about Ireland, he didn't have the copyright or the rights to say Guinness on TV. So he would have to use alternative words like stout or like the black stuff, nectar of the gods, that kind of thing. So like he couldn't even use the word Guinness, and they never said the word Guinness in this movie. I did notice that because that was on my mind. I was like, I wonder if they can, and they can't, so I don't think they could. And so I don't think they were allowed to use Guinness glasses with the logo on it because they didn't have the rights to the word Guinness. So that to me was just a copyright thing, and I get it. Like if you're gonna make a movie about Ireland, you kind of have to include Guinness in it a little bit. Irish people are very particular about how they drink their Guinness. They like it in the glass with the logo out and poured a certain way, and these were just like normal kind of pint glasses. I assume they were talking about Guinness, and they never said Guinness, they always said stout, but at the same time there are regional Guinnesses in Ireland as well, like Murphy's or Beamish. Maybe the northwest of Ireland has their own stout, I'm not entirely sure, but that to me just says they didn't have the rights to say Guinness, so I'm willing to throw that one away. Number 8, box tea and caviar is not a typical Irish breakfast. True. So they just had to include box tea there somewhere. There's this like throwaway line where Lindsay's like, what's for breakfast? And he's like, box tea. And she's like, what? And he's like, oh, it's like an Irish pancake. And it is, but it's potato. And to have box tea and caviar is kind of a new, like kind of fancy take on traditional Irish food. It's very popular in Dublin in like the fancier hotels and stuff like that. So this rich ass family would probably have box tea and caviar, but they have it for breakfast. I think they were just trying to shove it in there. If they wanted a real Irish breakfast, obviously this is what it looks like. There's like rashers and puddings and eggs and stuff like that. So like I get why they popped it in there, because they were like, look, we know what box tea is. Like I think this movie was just kind of showing like, look what we know about Ireland that not many people know, like Bridget and fucking box tea and stuff. We're like, just stick to, it's okay. Do you use a leprechaun and a sausage? Like just like they should have just used leprechauns and sausages. Number 7, Saint Bridget does not grant wishes. Yes, we already talked about this. Saint Bridget is not a mischievous little imp. She's a saint, and she's like a mother and a nun, and like she's like a very matronly, warm figure in Irish stories. She's not a fucking fairy. Number 6, Irish Tinder is a disaster. So like they're in this backwater town, probably in Bundoran, going through Tinder at one point, and they're just like, look at all these hot guys that are on here. And if you've been on Tinder in Ireland, there's some solidarity there. And like I'm in Dublin, right? Like I was using Tinder in Dublin back in the day, and in rural Ireland it would have been way less options. Either that or they expanded their fucking location out to like 100 miles or something like that. So like maybe they did find a bunch of hot guys in Ireland, but like maybe not in the rural places. Yeah, so like the friend says there are some seriously hot men in this town. It's like all 4 of them in this 300-person town that we are in. Number 5, there would be no free books for customers. There was a point in the movie where a customer got a free book from a bookstore. It's just a private business thing. I'm gonna write that one off because like, oh, there's no free books in Ireland. You don't know that. Maybe a business did that. You don't know. Number 4, Paul Kennedy would be considered a hack. There was a point where I was like, Irish people would have hated Paul Kennedy. He's like up his own ass. He dresses like he's gone to Cuba to find a young wife. It's very strange. That's silly. I'm just joking about that. Number 3, there is more than one road in Ireland. Yes. So like this movie, again, portrayed Ireland as kind of a bohunky backwater, one road kind of blah, blah, blah. Like, you know what I mean? And oh, there's a lovely little pub. There's only one road out. They had to build a story between Lindsay and this one guy. So like the old trope that, oh, there's only one road out and it's blocked. We're gonna have to stay the night at this beautiful little pub that reminds us of the 3rd floor of the Titanic fucking movie. I get it. You know, I get it. And there's a one scene in a pub where everybody's dancing and it's definitely like third class Titanic. And they had to include it in there. So I get the whole like one road into the town is closed off. Oh no. Yes, and yet again, a false portrayal. Number 2, the accents are wrong. The dialogues are all over the place. Lots of non-Irish actors doing bad accents. I would say only 2 actors doing bad accents. The rest just not Irish. And that's another problem in and of itself. Like I said, we already talked about this. I'm begging you on my knees with my hands in the air, gospel style, to please hire Irish people. I think the problem with the accents, I'm going to dive into a specific here. There are so many accents in Ireland. So many. Every county, essentially, and even sometimes within counties, there are different accents. The Northern accent, the Belfast accent, the Derry accent, the Newry accent. Like, even in the north of Ireland, there's so many different accents. When you go for like generic Hollywood Irish accent, it's not like the American accent. Like this right here is a very neutral, regionless American accent in my own opinion. I don't think I sound one place or another. Maybe you can tell I'm from either the West or the East Coast, but like not really sometimes, you know? So it's not like other countries or like an English accent. There are different English accents, but if I'm honest, the Harry Potter accent's kind of a generic English accent. There is no generic Irish accent, and you have to pick a region. There are some actors like Dame Judi Dench. She portrayed a woman, I think from Killarney or something, or she had a movie where she was Irish, but she picked a regional accent and she learned it, and that was brilliant. I think that's where her mom is from. I'll have to look it up and add it here. Dame Judi Dench picked a regional accent, and also she was in Belfast, so she picked a regional, specific Belfast accent and learned it. That was it. She didn't just like throw on any old Irish accent and go away with it. She picked a specific one, and I think that if you're gonna make an Irish movie, you have to pick a regional accent. If you're finding non-Irish actors, they have to pick a specific one. Otherwise, it's a fucking mess. And number 1, Maddie Strip is no James Joyce novel. There is a line in the movie where she hits the cliffs of Moher and she's like, oh, I feel like I'm in a James Joyce novel. And people are like, where? You know, so like, fuck me. Like, they didn't even read a James Joyce book to research this. So it's just they painted Ireland in one big sweeping green paintbrush stroke, and that was it. And I think that's the hard part. If they had picked if it had been more specific, you know, obviously that's more research, that's more time, that's more money, that's more, you know, that's just more, and they didn't obviously have the time to do that. Like if they were going up to the northwest coast of Ireland, or like they wanted to go in the cliffs of Moher, they should have just been in Galway. You know, they should have just chose Galway accent. Sorry. Like they just should have picked a Galway accent, picked a Galway town, or like Clare if they were trying to be more rural. You know, not as many cities in Clare. There are cities in Clare, but just not as many, I assume. I don't know. I haven't spent much time in Clare. I spent more time in Galway actually. Anyway, but like they just should have been very specific. I think a lot of the issues with these movies come from when they're like, I went to Ireland, like I went to the country. And it's like, if you go to America, you're not going to fly into Manhattan and drive for a day and be in the Grand Canyon, you know? So like you have to choose regionally. And with these movies that paint Ireland in one big paintbrush, I think people see it's such a small country and just assume that everything's kind of the same and drivable and close and one culture, when like it's not. And so like I'm disappointed a little bit in this movie, you know, like to be honest. So like, okay, so like my big negatives, like the accents, Bridget being used as some sort of leprechaun, and the geography, obviously. The biggest ups, though, is that most people do stick to their own accent, and they don't fake an Irish accent. Some people do, which is bullshit. And that the Irish family being portrayed is very, very wealthy, and that is part of the storyline, which I appreciate. And also, I love Lindsay Lohan, and I won't have anybody saying anything mean about her. Okay, but here's the thing, you guys. If you watch this movie, it's exactly what you expected. If you're a little worried about the accents and the geography and the portrayal of Ireland, you should be. That's what it is. Bad accents, kitschy writing. It's a laugh or two, though. And yet again, I've written this down several times. I'm begging Hollywood writers to please consult anybody ever from the island of Ireland at all, even once, when they write these movies. The bar is on the floor. You don't even need to consult an expert. Just consult some guy. Just fly to Dublin, walk down the street. If you see an old guy drinking a Guinness in a pub somewhere, just ask him. Literally, the bar is on the floor with these cultural aspects of Ireland. So I'm just begging you, stop Googling, just go drop into any town ever in Ireland, pick the oldest guy that you see drinking the most Guinness, and just ask him any question you want at all. He'll answer. It's fine. I know he will. I don't know who he is, but he'll answer you. You know, that's it. That's my response. I'm like, ugh. Like, it's not, it's like, again, you know, again, this movie is a P.S. I love you. It's a leap year. It is. It just is. It's a shame because we could do some really great things. And in my head, I've already thought of like 3 or 4 different options for these movies that they could, like, just consult me, dude. I don't care. I'll tell you my ideas. I could use the exposure and like $300. I'm yours. I'll talk to you about a storyline I think could be better. I think that a fish out of water story is very much possible, but you have to dive into one specific culture. For example, if you send Lindsay to like Cork or something, and then she starts to learn about like the rebellious nature of Cork and like Michael Collins and the Irish revolutions or whatever, and then all of a sudden you've got like, she's like marries into a Republican family. She's like a fish out of water. She's like, I don't get it. I'm like, blah. I'm like, I don't know. You could do it so much better. These movies could be amazing. They could be so much fun and not lose the cultural aspects of Ireland. You know, I don't know. It could be 10 million times better, and it wasn't, which is a shame. Anyway, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. I actually shared some alternative ideas I have for Irish romance movies or Irish fish out of water stories that I think could be funny. I broke down a little bit more on Instagram as well. So like, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok, follow me here on YouTube, buy my stuff, repost my things. I love you. I love you, love you, love you, love you. Have a great day. And watch a different movie. Bye, 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 bye. The RTE accent that kind of goes and rolls off the tongue like that. I probably won't include that in there. Dumb bitch. Sorry, my head is just being very cuddly right now. Yes, good boy. Thank you. You just relax, okay, Bubba? Thank you. That was if you're
music licensing reimagined.
Like if you on the town with like